Uh, let's talk about the state of gameplay.
Yeah.
What did Riot talk about here?
It's bad. Game sucks.
They talked about a lot of stuff here. A lot of it was just like on patch balance, like their balance philosophy. They've talked about this a lot. It has changed a little bit, but they still do have their like tiers, like their I forget their exact names, but it was something like casual, above average, whatever, than professional. Like fuck, I should know the third tier, because the third tier is like what I'm in as like a master tier player, like a master tier grandmaster player. It's their like elite or whatever it's called threshold. They have these thresholds that are all weird, and it feels weird to balance the game around a like point whatever percent of players, but the reality is League is very trickle down. And I feel like they try to explain that in like a lot of this, is that hey, we are balancing for pro play and for Diamond 2 plus, but these things will affect you guys, is the main thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's just part of that model that, it's very easy to understand, or at least I think it's easy to understand that, like, if you balance around the highest level of competitive play, that means I'm balancing around everyone playing their character correctly, building correctly, pathing, micro, like, everything being done properly.
Also, teammates.
And teammates, yeah. Yeah, and so, like, that's an easy way to say, oh, well, yeah, just balance everything around competitive. But there's also the aspect that, like, the way a fucking, 900 point challenger player plays Yone does not look anything like a silver player playing Yone.
Yeah.
And so, like, there needs to be a balance for the vast majority of people playing the game as well. And that's just a difficult balance to find, that they're always in pursuit of that line, however hard it is to find.
I was actually watching one of your games, Colton, and it's like one of those things where I think Irelia is a busted character. I think most people think Irelia is a busted character, but like not to say you're at a lower level of play, but like, for example, in Master Tier, like Grandmaster, the Irelia on the enemy team in your game was like 9-1 or something at one point, and in my mind I go, oh, she's just gonna solo carry the game. But like, even just the difference between like high diamond and like mid to low plat is like, she's not good enough at the character to solo carry a game on that character, right?
It's like, I mean, it was close. I think if I hadn't been playing Malphite that game, it might have gone a little different. Because
like, it's just interesting. It's so interesting seeing how it changes just based off that. Like, she is a very hard character, even though she's OP. Like, it's fucking hard to pilot a character like that. I think at lower like levels.
And if you make like a critical mistake, even if you are really ahead, like, you can just run it down, and like you dive into the 1v3 that realistically you should have won and not get nothing. Whereas, like, if I'm 10-0 on Malphite, let's say, as an example, it's like, I mean, yeah, I guess I can miss the R entirely, but I still make them run away from me as I walk at them and go, 400 armor.
Yeah,
Scion's
for sure.
Probably the best example of, like, you can play super optimally and make the character look OP, or you could just walk at them and still be, like, really effective.
Yeah. So yeah, they talked about some other stuff. The most interesting part in that first paragraph is that like these mid-range champion reworks, like the Tom Kench one, the Sona one, the Amumu one, it's really just to make it so that these characters aren't just like really good at low elo and then just dog shit terrible in pro play. They want to like kind of bridge the gap behind them by like adding more mechanics to these characters, and they're going to continue to look for more candidates to kind of like be like, hey, this character is really good at like low elo. Can we make them a little more interesting so maybe they can also see play at like higher elo or pro play? And I think that's really cool. But they also talk about their pro play meta. Their goal at MSI was to have no 100% pick ban champions. And they go, hey, we did it. But Udyr was at 95%, Renekton was at 93%, Lee Sin was at 91%, which I believe all those are way too high. But they also talk about their other goals, which they saw 82 different champions picked, and 4 out of the 5 roles saw at least 10 picks with 5% more presence. Support missed the mark. Support, I think, is one of the harder roles at like the pro play level to have like a ton of variety. But it's cool. I really do like their balance philosophy of trying to like have more interesting picks. The reality is even if it's like a one pick character, if you see like one game of like the coolest fucking character at Worlds, you go, oh my god, that's like that is the game that you tell your friends about, right? If you're like a whatever one trick and that character's never played in pro play because it's not meta, but like they play it once, even you fucking watch that game and you're just excited to see your character play it. And I think that's like really cool.
I think it's also really, really hype if it gets brought out in like a critical game for a win where it's like, you know, wait, what? Caps fucking came out of here with the Soraka mid, and then just like slapped, or you know, he played Heimer, you know, he did some weird thing, and it's just like because then you just have that fun little chance of like, is he gonna do it? Is he gonna do it again? We're in quarterfinals. Is he gonna do it again?
I think the single best example of this that I can think of off the top of my head is like, holy shit, who he played Aurelion Sol versus Rocks Tigers. Holy shit, he's ganking at level 1.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane, and it's so fun to see, like, those characters up there.
Yeah, for sure. Next little bit they talk about item balance a little bit. They're just talking about how they added more items like chains into the game, and they thought that it was, like, overall well received, and they're planning on adding more items. People have, like... So the items that they're planning on being added have been leaked because they're in Wild Rift already. I was gonna bring it up as a discussion topic, but the items in Wild Rift are so fucking different than the items in League of Legends. I don't even think it's comparable. Like, the idea is that these items are both mana tank items, but like, we don't know how they're actually gonna look in League of Legends. They're probably gonna be mana tank ability haste looking. But when we actually see actual numbers, we'll like talk about them a little bit more because I know some people are excited about that.
I feel like they almost have to be different in Wild Rift to allow for games to be shorter.
Yeah, for sure. Then they just go over the champions releases. They have had 5 major champion releases this year with Viego, Gwen, Dr. Mundo, Akshan, and Vex. They talk about their win rates on day 1 versus day 7. So Viego's win rate on day 1 was 42%, and on day 7 it was 47.5. I believe they gave him a hotfix. I don't remember though for Viego. That's too far back in my little brain. But it's cool. They talked about Gwen. She sat at 42% on day 1 and 48 on day 7. I know they hotfix buffed her though. I know that for sure. And then they gave her a small, so they even gave her another small buff in 11.19, and they've obviously nerfed her since then. Mundo, he had 51% win rate by day 7. So they like nerfed him a bit. Akshan, he started out with 39% win rate day 1. I remember day 1 Akshan. He's one of the fucking harder characters to like figure out how to play. But they fucking hotfix buffed him twice, I think. And then by day 7, he was 45% win rate. They just shouldn't have buffed him is like the reality. I
think people figured out that it's Emax, not Qmax, and also rush wit's end into like shield bow / Kraken. Versus like Gale Force, which is what a lot of people were going first day.
I do think it's crazy that we aren't going to see Akshan at Worlds because there has been no...
That's absolutely insane to me.
Yeah, because he was released right during playoffs in the season, in the different regions. So therefore, no teams got to play him in competitive play. Therefore, he's not eligible for Worlds, even though he's been out since July.
Yeah,
isn't that great? To me. Like it's been like 2 months since he's been out, which I understand. Like the we're gonna see the highest level of competition because people aren't playing versus a character they never played in competitive play versus, but. The reality is you play so much like scrimmage that competitive play doesn't really mean anything compared to like the amount of like scrim practice that you get. I don't know why we're seeing this.
I didn't know that was even a rule they had.
He has to be out for 2 weeks to like be in a competitive thing, but he wasn't out for 2 weeks in Europe, I think was the only region. So Europe wasn't going to have him live for the LEC championships. And because of that, they disabled him for all of Worlds.
Oh, that's so dumb.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, right?
That's so dumb.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
But yeah, he definitely got like overbuffed. And then we're talking about Vex is the last character who got released a couple weeks ago, or like last week or two ago. I don't know. Either way, she released day 1, like 42% win rate. She's not like listed here win rates, but day 1 it was 42. Day 2, 50. Vex was released too strong, boy.
I'm of the opinion that Vex is overpowered.
Yeah, she definitely is like overpowered. Yeah,
an anti-mobile mobility mobile carry is like terrifying. Also, her W might be the most overloaded ability in the game. Having
her W is crazy.
Hard CC that's guaranteed plus a pretty thick shield is nuts. It's so good.
Like, I know a lot of people are saying that she's a relatively easy character, which is true. But even easy characters don't start at like 50% win rate on day 2.
Yeah.
She's just like has too much damage, is too easy to play for her basic win rate. But we'll see how it goes. She looks really fun to play. I know we had a lot of submissions in our Sickest Plays Discord of like people being like, "Fuck, finally another mid character that I actually enjoy," because like she's very unique, which is nice.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So that's all of the new their character updates throughout. Let's see.
They talk about dodging and matchmaking are like the last 2 things I believe in here. Just more about like, hey, dodging actually fucks up a lot of the game, so we're still working on fixing that. We had a long discussion last week about that. I don't think we probably need to dive too much into it. And then they talk about like matchmaking, where how their queues are currently working. They say at all ranks, players are getting their primary role more than 90% of the time. At all ranks, match-made teammates are within less than a full tier of each other in 99% of games. At all ranks, queue times have been decreased relative to 2020. So those are all just super positive things. I do think that in general, they'll continue to get better at this stuff. The only other thing they really note is that their Smurf queue is working to remove Smurfs from games. They don't mention in here about how Smurf queue kind of fucks people who haven't played the game in a while.
Yeah.
Or they don't mention how Smurf queue, if you like play ranked and you get lucky like a couple games, you'll just be in Smurf queue even though you're not actually a Smurf. They don't talk about stuff like that, which I think is like a little bit of issue, but overall Smurf queue has helped a lot of people enjoy the game more, which I think is good.
Yeah. And they dive into the new items a little bit more detail here at the very end. Yeah. I read through these, so I'll give a quick summary. They're going to make a new mage mythic that is focused around defense and, shielding, protecting yourself. That was, I think, the initial attempt with Everfrost, but people use it offensively way more than defensively. They're adding a Serpent's Fang-esque item that deals bonus damage against low health and shielded enemies. That's an AP item, so giving them a similar option. I think that that's really important to have parity with items like that. There was another one that I was like, oh, QSS. I wish that there was a fucking tank QSS and an AP QSS item.
So I agree with that. I don't actually know if I agree with the like complete item parity, because I think it leads to a lot of like interesting counter picks and like draft play. Sort of like, okay, all AD could be a viable strategy, but then you could just pick Malphite and have a really strong case against it. And I think in that sense, like having, okay, if you want to break shields or you don't want to play against shield characters, you need to draft someone who can build Serpent's Fang. And like maybe at a high level, that's how it should work, even if it doesn't translate super well in solo queue.
I think for me the biggest thing with that is like, if that's the case, then there should be an item for the AP characters that's like, well, this does a thing that AD can't because they have Serpent's Fang that does something that we can't.
Yeah, it's called
and tanks
Zonius,
have something that neither of them can.
The single best item in the game.
Which one?
Zonius.
Yeah, except for 80 carries can buy that item and it's still great.
It's objectively worse. You can buy Serpent's Fang on.
I guess, but I mean, like, I think that there are several 80 carries that still use it to super high effectiveness. But yeah, I that's a good counterpoint that Zonius fits that role. Anyway, back to new items. They're putting some new tank items in. So they mentioned that support tanks are a lot of times stuck with Locket of the Iron Solari. They want to give support tanks a more offensive option that really rewards them for getting in there. So it's gonna, when you immobilize enemy champions, everybody nearby takes increased. As they say, it's like a mega Abyssal Mask, and they're going to be adjusting Abyssal Mask to avoid overlap. But I think, that's kind of the option where, you could have, I guess, gone Chem Tank, but that really didn't answer the question or really fit that role of like, I want to dive in and do stuff, but right now it's like, okay, well, I'll dive in and then I shield my team when there's a lot of damage coming. But this is like, I'm diving in, increasing the damage, So that'll be stupid good, I think, unless they have it perfectly tuned on release.
I can't wait for someone to get flamed for getting hit by CC that killed the person that didn't get hit by CC.
You got hit by a stun, and so then I died to the Caitlyn ult that wouldn't have killed me.
That's crazy, yeah.
And so additionally, they're talking about how not just bot lanes, but tanks in general, mana options for spellcasting tanks. It's weird because the only one is Frozen Heart.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's one of 4 items in the game, or sorry, 5 items in the game that gives mana.
Yeah, that's crazy actually.
And 2 of them are Dark Seal or Bajais, and then there's the 3 Lost Chapter items, and Frozen Heart. There's oh no, I guess I forgot Tyr. I forgot Tyr mana.
There's very few though, as like the main.
It's not a lot of options for mana. And there are characters who want to have infinite mana because they're casting every other second. And there are characters that just want to have a mana pool large rotation twice. And they some of them need mana items. So we're getting a new legendary tank item. That tank item for supports is going to be a mythic. This new one's a legendary that gives you some mana, as well as a unique effect that allows them to dip into their mana for additional shield every time they immobilize or slow enemies. Ooh, that might lead to a real disgusting tank Rise coming back.
Yeah, that's what people were saying. Like they were looking at the Wild Rift versions of these items, and they're like, yeah, these items don't seem like tank items. They seem like Rise items.
Yeah.
They seem like going to be abused by Rise items.
Yeah.
And then lastly, it looks like they're putting in a new assassin item. They say a lot of today's legendary assassin itemization is focused on centralized or concentrated burst damage, and we wanted to create an option for users that are more interested in frequent spell rotations rather than singular burst output. This new legendary comes with a chunk of ability haste and a new effect that refunds some of your ultimate cooldown whenever an enemy champion dies within 3 seconds of you damaging them. I mean, it off the bat, it sounds like a real like assassin players are whining because they want to have their cake and eat it too. It's like, hey, you can't 100 to 0 anyone and also have that on an 8-second cooldown and also have an escape and also have lifesteal.
But why?
But why?
I would love to see a like assassin Lee Sin with this item, because I feel like the main thing about like playing a damage Lee Sin is that his ult's way too long. Well, it's not that long of a cooldown, but it's relatively long for like if you're gonna play him full damage. But if you can have his ult cooldown be like a basic ability cooldown, then damage Lee Sin anyone.
Yeah, and I really am interested to see what numbers this comes with.
Yeah,
because I would love to see it be like a huge decrease to ultimate cooldown, but like either give almost no stats or like, really keep it from being super oppressive on other people. But like, yeah, if I want to run Ultimate Hunter and this, like I can use my Lee Sin kick every other time I Q or something.
Yeah, disgusting. I don't want that at all.
I know, but I do think that this kind of is also gonna fill a little bit of that gap that old Presence of Mind had. Was the Presence of Mind that refunded ultimate cooldown? Which I think I miss. They're giving this to assassins. I again would love to see a world where mages get this. I mean, mages already have insane access to ability haste. I would love to see again a world where in this one it's like you can specifically access ultimate ability haste, because I think everyone in the game really has tons of access to ability haste. Like it's not hard to have 60 to 80 ability haste on any real character with like 4 items.
Yeah.
But if I could, have a build with very little ability haste, it's like, cool, I'll take the ultimate item because I'm playing Zillion, for example, or
No.
Karthus. It's like, yeah, on Karthus, Yeah, what? Yeah, all of the ability haste on my Q, none of it matters.
Yeah.
The only ability cooldown I
was
care
talking
about is my
Karthus. I mean, sorry, Zillion.
There's just so many characters that I think could have like a fun build with this item, like on different like ARM or something like that. Like I'd love to play Karthus on this on like with this, or just like the characters that would actually use it really well, like Evelyn, like characters that are just 100% alt reliant, like Evelyn or even Rengar.
Evelyn and Rengar, unless they're Giga Fed.
Yeah. But yeah, Evelyn would be great as long as it's not only AD, which for some reason it doesn't say anything about it being AD. Whenever I think assassin, I always think AD items. But
yeah,
we'll see.
I could see that. Maybe that's why they don't, is because it just gives ability haste and that refund, and it gives no other stats.
I don't think Riot would ever release an item like that, though.
Yeah,
no, they
I
wouldn't.
think that's kind of against what they want to do.
Yeah, but yeah, there are definitely characters that are super alt reliant or whose play style could change significantly. I think Kha'Zix is one that could be really fun with it. There was the world where you got to alt every time. You got to be invisible every time you walked into a bush.
Yeah.
And being able to use that 2 or 3 times in a fight would be pretty, fun.
I mean, any character who has an ultimate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Except Corki. Don't buy this item on Corki.
Yeah. Awesome.
So yeah, that's the state of the league, state of gameplay.